drill 1. I want you to work with a partner, or actually in groups of about 3. For this activity, I would like to know, are there, drill 1 is reading, reading in particular focusing on the little endings that you were, so the tanween, fath, and the dhammas, and all the endings on the end of words that you read about in Unit 10 for today. So, these are important. Why? Why do you need to know about these endings? You need to know about these endings so that you learn to ignore them, basically. Seriously. Because you're going to start hearing them a lot when you hear fusha, and you don't know what they mean right now, and you don't need to know what they mean. What you need to know is just, oh, that's just one of those endings I'm going to learn about later. I'm going to ignore it, and I'm not going to write dhamma as a wow, for instance, when you're writing, okay? So the most important, this is the main thing, is we're learning to identify them so that when you listen to fusha, you can hear them, and you just, for right now, just know that you can just sort of ignore them. And focus on the meaning without those, essentially, because they don't impact meaning at all. So what I would like to do is, in each group, I'd like to have one person who feels, if there's enough of you, sort of like they have some experience with, Ammar, I'm assuming, do you have some experience with reading Quran, reading these endings? Okay, Ammar, Imran, do you? Nothing at all? Anybody else? Farhana? A little bit? Okay. Shwaya? Okay. James, you feel pretty confident about reading these endings? Yes. These fine endings? Okay, anybody else? Either just they feel quite confident about doing it, or they've had practice reading the Quran? Okay, I think that's good. We have 4 leaders then. Okay, so Ammar and James and Farhana and Nikki, that's 4. And we are, how many? كم طالب في الصف اليوم؟ 10 و6 ممتاز. يعني 4 people per group. 4 مجموعات و4. In drill number 1, I just want you to read, and your leader will sort of just help you and prompt with pronouncing the endings on these words. Okay? And Ustaza Kirsten and I will go around and help as needed. Okay.
Oh, this is the dagger Alif Baa. So it's going to be
So that's not a noon, right?
That's Oh, okay, yeah. Okay. So be Hada, Hadua, Hada, that's the so Rogel no
Rogel E?
It's the
So the whole thing.
Say it again.
Rogel Loon.
So this is Rogel, and then this is pronounced On.
So Ragalun.
Ragalun. Rajalun.
Rajulun. Tayun. Tawlun.
Tawi, not tawilun. Okay, that sounds like you're putting a wow noon on it. Keep it short. Tawil.
Tawilun.
Tawilun. Tawilun.
Tawilun.
Tawilun.
Tawilun.
Tawilun.
Tawilun.
Tawilun.
Tawilun.
Tawilun.
Tawilun.
Almost like Luhn.
Tawilun.
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 Tawilun. Tawilun.
Tawilun. جران أريد جدا
مش it's not فتحة. Right here. Yeah.
جدا
جميل.
حفيه
حفي
دارسة
هذه غرس
Careful on that.
غرستون
Reread that again, that second word.
غرستون
Yeah, you got the تمرين right, that's good, but the first letter. What's the first letter of that word?
غ
So, قص.
Oh, sorry. Gurstun. Gurstun.
There's no R in it.
Oh, gustun. Gustun.
Close.
Okay, so when you have a ta marbuta, you're going to have that a sound in there, right? So
Gustan.
what's that just by itself? The whole word.
Oh. Qissa.
Qissa. And then when you put the un on, you get
قص.
Qussan.
qis,
قصة.
Qussatun.
qissatun.
Qussatun.
Yeah, you
It's
still
like
have the
when we say like Medina X, so like that, and it's like a when Tamaguta is exposed to a different element, it gets the T in there. And you still keep the sound in there.
صح.
You just add the T.
صح. قصة قصة. يعني إيه قصة? What is قصة? So this is one of your vocabulary words, right? قصة. قصة. بالضبط كده. هذه قصة.
هذه قصة tuyalla
طويل.
طويلة ولا يسا
مرة تانية.
or ولا يسا.
So would this just be filled out or be all?
Close. If you added the fatha to the e sound, what would that sound like?
واليسا.
Before the so
ولا
oh yeah. Laisa.
Okay. Walaisa. عندي. Wagbun.
There's no.
Or wagdun. Wagdun. Al-an.
What are you looking for?
جيد.
جيد. يلا ناصر اقرأ.
الشهادة في لمعان
مش فيلمان. Okay, there's no long vowel in this, even though it's written with an alif, right? It's just film.
فيلم.
It's a short vowel, even though it's written on an alif. There's a dhamma on that calf, actually. You need that to know that, to read that properly.
في البيت أو في السينما.
Okay. Can I get you to read those prepositional phrases followed by a definite noun the way we were practicing them in class last week, instead of في البيت أو في السينما? Remember how we talked about the liaison that you need to use? Can you do that for me here?
في I'm not exactly sure what you're asking me to do, but
So instead of في البيت, it would be
في البيت. Okay. في البيت
أو
أو في السينما. في السينما.
Is there an alif lam? Is there a lam sound in this?
في السينما.
Is there a lam sound here? Is there?
I think so.
You think so?
في السينما. في السينما. في السينما. في السينما. في السينما.
No,
في السينما. في السينما.
There you go.
في السينما.
There you go. Let me hear the shadda.
في السينما.
في السينما.
السينما.
Okay. ففي البيت وفي السينما. في البيت. This is going to be very, very important because you're going to start listening to and transcribing Arabic sentences, and you really need to get used to this idea that when you hear في السينما, that's not one word spelled S. It's في السينما, right? So remember to be conscious of this and thinking about that what you may hear may not sound like a preposition followed by a definite noun, but think about maybe it is. And if you read that way yourself, it will help. جميل. شكرا.
أسكن في بيت صغير في مدينة كبيرة.
يذهب الولد.
There's a you or a vowel
الولد
صح.
صح.
إلا بيتي رفيقك رفيقي
صح. بيتي رفيقه. رفيقي. رفيقه. صح. بيتي رفيقه.
معه.
كويس. جميل. تمام. Is that the last sentence? Okay. Let's try do different ones. So read different ones than you read the first time. Go for a little bit of fluency this time. Again, the main thing about these sounds is that you need to know one of the things we'll be doing in every lesson in Al-Kitaab is that you will be listening to sentences that are not written for you anywhere. You just have to listen to them and transcribe them basically in Arabic and give us translations for them. And many of them are going to have these little words in it. So you just need to kind of be aware, and you will learn also to ignore them eventually.
Write them or anything? You just
No.
I thought at least the and you write it in formal, like the tanween fatha you write, but the tanween dhamma and tanween kasra you don't write.
Well, you have to write the alif if you have tanween. So the word shukran is written with an alif. You have to write that alif if you don't write. Yeah, so if you have tanween fatha, you do have to write an alif most of the time. Unless it's tanween fatha on what?
On tamarbuta?
On temarbuta. Temarbuta just takes the tanween fatha without an alif. That's exactly right. Right?
So shukran doesn't have to be spelled with the. I was confused. You write the alif, but you don't write the tanween fatha. Is what you're saying.
You don't have to write the tanween fatha, but you do have to write the alif.
Yes.
Yeah. So for most of these things, it's a question of just ignoring it, and there's nothing in the writing except with the tanween al-fatha. You need to write that alif there. So what are some of the words that we know that have tanween fatha and have to be written with an alif at the end? Ahlan, sahlan, marhaban, shukran, afwan, and we will learn more of them. Adverbs. They're adverbs. Jiddan is another one. Yes, jiddan is another one, which was in your one of the sentences. Okay? Kwayis. Handwriting. You read some passages for homework, handwriting passages. Did you realize that there were 3 paragraphs and not just one?
Yes.
Everybody read, so everybody took a shot at all 3 of them? Okay, good. What I'd like you to do right now is work with a partner to go through these and kind of help each other. See how much you should be able to understand quite a bit of the paragraphs, but kind of see what you maybe weren't able to figure out. Maybe your partner was able to, and the other thing that you can do is I can give you back your paper and have you sort of peer edit each other's writing if you feel like you've worked enough on these. So I'll let you determine that. But in the morning class, we spent 20 minutes really just working on the handwriting. There was a lot of things that people were finding out and discovering and helping each other figure out. So it was working pretty well. But if you feel like you've exhausted these and really I can give you something else to do. So just let me know. So I'd like you to work with just one partner on this. So just in pairs, going through and reading and figuring out.
Okay, so أحب مدينة دمشق. So I love the city of Damascus. وإن شاء الله, hopefully, أشوفكم. We will see each other. I will see. أشوفكم هنا.
Come. What might come mean?
It's not you, because we know. She?
Nicole.
No.
Nico.
We know أشوفك.
I will see you. So it's not you.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. It's the same, right? You know, Assalamu alaikum. What's Assalamu alaikum?
So his wife, Nicole, is so we determined that earlier we saw Anjuna, so we have a daughter, so it's not we. So they.
I will see they.
Them.
I will see them. Inshallah, I will see them. It's an end of a sentence. What would you be saying to someone in a letter at the end of the sentence? Hopefully, I will see them. Is there any them? Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah.
I will see you. How many yous?
So it's not it or act. So it's not just one. So do you all?
Like Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.
So you all here. And then
What's that word?
no, not ma. Oh, it's cool. Goriban.
Very nice. What is that? What does that mean?
Close to. So close soon. Yeah, right?
Very nice. Very nice. So qariban, close in.
Close in time. Close in time.
بالضبط قريبا. Very nice. Isn't that interesting? Did some of you get to this one? Did some of you get to this one in your Okay, did you figure out what this letter is right here? Those of you that I already worked with, please don't say, but I'd like to kind of walk you through maybe what this is. I think this is interesting. So, okay, so let's kind of read this together. Askun, right? Oh, I kind of gave that away, didn't I? Okay, so ma,
What is that? Is that pension? Is it?
pen,
I don't know. It's just
pension what? Sarir. Okay, so with my brother in a room in
Benson Library.
pension sarir.
Small, something small.
Something small, in a small apartment, loft, flat. Trailer. He's in Cairo.
Small
Some of you, did anybody studied French or I think in Spanish also? Pension? Pension? No? It's not in Spanish? You don't use it? No? Pension? Pension. Maybe it's Italian. Pensione. There we go. What is it though? What is it? Well, what is it from the context? Hostel, like a hostel. Yeah, like a hostel. Pension, a pension. I have to find out what language that is. I'm surprised. I thought it was a more commonly used. Okay, so this letter right here, what is this letter? It's a noon. That's right. It's a noon. Okay. Yalla. You may close your Alif Baa books. We are done with Alif Baa. Mabruk. Yes, ceremony and some zaghrata. A little celebration noise. Okay. We have about 30 minutes left. I would like to spend this time asking you to work in a group of like 3 probably. I have some questions for you I want you to discuss about the preface. So, has everybody brought their books with them and has everybody read the preface? No? You haven't read the preface? You haven't read the preface? No. Okay, the reason I'm asking is because I don't want any more than one person who has not read the preface in every group of 3. So I want 2 people who have read the preface and then possibly one that hasn't, just kind of, actually I take that back. If you haven't read it at all, I want you to read it right now. So you haven't read the preface? Read it right now. Read it. Read it? Have you read it? No. Read it. Let me see. Let's talk about some of these questions together as a class. And what I would really like, would you kind of move your seats a little bit so that you're all sort of facing each other and talking to each other? I'm going to stand back over here. I'm going to moderate a little bit, but I really do not want you giving me the answers, right? This is not about you demonstrating to me that you know the right answer. I want you to kind of be sharing your ideas. I'll jump in if I want to add something, but I want you to think of this as a conversation between each other, so to speak. Yes? So, during the class time, during the first class hours, we'll be working on taf'il, mufradat, activating vocabulary. What does this mean? What is your role in this activation? Anybody can start?
We have to not only know the word and be able to pronounce it, but be able to write it and you actually use it, put it in your book of words that we have to say.
Add it to your lexicon.
Yeah.
Lexicon is the book of
Any other thoughts about that? What is your role in activating new vocabulary that you're learning?
To
come prepared to class with like
already knowing it, but then
being familiar enough
Yeah.
with it to
be able to use it.
Where do you use it?
And like if you hear somebody saying it wrong or maybe using it wrong or something, being able to correct them. And if you're using it wrong yourself, then accepting that you need to change. It is.
Sounds to me like you've gone through a process of having to realize that you have to accept that.
Yep.
Is that something that's happened to you?
Yeah.
So you come in with this sort of idea that this is the word, and it takes you a little while to sort of accept the idea that maybe somehow you got it wrong. Good point, right? Good. That's a really good point. Not resisting that is very, very useful, so you don't waste a lot of time in that denial stage, right?
Like, no, I'm saying it right. I promise you, this is right. And then saying it totally wrong.
Okay. All right. Number 1 and number 2 kind of go together, and I'd like for you guys to sort of share with each other, because vocabulary learning and active vocabulary learning is a huge emphasis in our curriculum. And I'd like to hear you share some of your ideas that you have for doing that successfully. It's going to become even more important as we move into Al-Kitaab, if that's possible. So what has been working for you? Nikki?
I found 2 things that help me a lot. In Alif Baa, whenever we have new vocabulary, and then right after we have like drill, the little activity where it shows you the pictures and it says it out to you. I find that doing that maybe not just once, but like twice or 3 times helps. Like
4, 5,
yeah,
6,
as
7.
many times as until you feel comfortable. That helps me. And then another thing I do is I take Post-it notes, and like as we learn new vocabulary, like if I see something around the room like shabak or tawila, I like write it in Arabic on a Post-it note and just like stick it there. So I like when I look at it, I see like, oh, that's the shabak, instead of, oh, that's the window, or like something like that.
Other ideas? James?
What I do that's helpful is I make some words rhyme. I make a nonsensical sentence about these words. It could be like a shoot, they don't have to make sense, but the fact that they rhyme and the fact that it's nonsense, my brain remembers like, oh, that first word means this, and it's not the second word. It means this.
So what you're talking about are mnemonic aids.
Yes.
Mnemonic aids. Very, very useful to develop mnemonic aids for yourself. Mm-hmm. Can you think of an example?
It's using the word الشباك مش السماك. Yeah, the window is not the fish.
A window, not fish. I like that. الشباك مش الأسماك, maybe. الشباك مش الأسماك. If it works for you, hey, yeah, it's great. Whatever works for you. Mnemonic aids are really, really, really useful. Anybody else have any good mnemonic aids that they've used? Imran.
I just try to sing or change words in English songs to Arabic.
Yeah. Can you tell them about your...
My Katy Perry song.
Do it.
I was singing like, you're hot and you're cold, you're yes and you're no. But changing it to Arabic.
Now say it in Arabic.
Inti haran, inti bardan, inti nam, inti la.
And did you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, to help you learn. So, inti harrana, inti bardana, inti naam, inti la. Good, good. Has anybody discovered the fact that you can put the vocabulary and exercises on your iTunes?
Yeah.
Has anybody?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was really surprised to find out how many people in my other class are not aware of this. This is very, Lydia, tell them about it.
The CD that comes with it, you just burn it onto your computer. So I have all of the videos and all of the MP3 things from the exercises on my iPod.
Very, very helpful. So like what you were talking about, wanting, the repetition, sometimes trying to do that repetition all at once is maybe a bit much, but if you have it on your iTunes and you're stuck in a line somewhere and you have 5 minutes, short, intense, focused periods of study sometimes are more useful than spending 2 hours at a time. Your attention tends to wane, right? So anything that makes the material portable for you, like being able to put it on your iPod, is really useful. Then it's just right there. Of course, flashcards work the same way because you can carry those around. Anything else about vocabulary? تفضلي, Kate.
My friend's always there when I'm doing, like the same friend's always there when I'm doing my Arabic homework. And so I started teaching them like little words that I can use with them, like that way I can start using more Arabic, like just replacing it, like if that makes sense.
It does make a lot of sense.
And like when we were learning readings, like I told my mom, so whenever she'd call, like I'd read her in Arabic, like instead of usually Spanish.
So here's my question to you. Do you all agree that this is a good idea? The more you can use the language, the better, and the more you're going to learn it. So here's my question to you. How come you guys are always using English with each other? Seriously. Seriously. I mean, but you don't know the words for what, right?
To be like, how was your day? Oh, well, this happened, this happened, this happened. We can ask what.
Okay.
Yeah, like we typically start speaking in Arabic, but then after a little bit of
I
talking
can
in
say I
Arabic,
have
it's
a
just
dog. I have a
English.
dog and a cat. Who's black, brown and black.
I have a dog and a cat. That's what happened today.
Okay.
Mara and I code switch all the time. We just pepper English with Arabic.
Good. And you feel like you're using as much Arabic as you can. Okay? That's really good. So I want you all to start challenging yourself to do this. I think the reason that it is difficult to do this is a sociological reason, right? You're interacting with each other on a human level, and there's something odd about using a language that you have such limited resources in. But you know, I think you've had plenty of opportunity to get to know each other. Now I want you to really focus on the fact that your job in this class is to practice your Arabic. And even if that means talking to each other, not about the most profound things, it doesn't matter, right? And it's not going to be very long before I am going to mandate Arabic only in the classroom. So, you know, I'm giving you this opportunity to take control of this and have it come from you. But if it doesn't come from you, it will come from me, okay? Just so that you know. Because you're still spending, you know, in the beginning I understand you're developing a community and it's very important, but khalas, we're done. You have the community is there. Now it's about remembering what we're here to do, right? And practice, use it. So I don't hear you guys saying hello to each other. You say hello to me when I walk in.
Yeah, we definitely say hello to each other.
You do in Arabic?
Yeah.
Okay, good. أهلا وسهلا. ازيك؟ أنت تعبان؟ أنت تعبان؟ سلامتك. Okay.
Yeah, I did do that.
Okay, good. All right, let's do that. Let's really squeeze every possible opportunity to use Arabic.
If we talk in Arabic, it's okay. Like we're asking how are you, as long as we're doing it in Arabic fully, it will be.
What if we said like yani, a word in English? Or like, okay, ignore that question. Just yeah.
Okay, yalla. Let's look at number 3. Let's look at number 3. Any last thoughts about learning vocabulary? Definitely use that. You know, put the materials on your iPod. I think that's a really useful thing. What about number 3? What does it mean to know the grammar of a language? What have you learned or understood about how we are learning grammar? How we will learn grammar? Are you comfortable with this approach?
Recognizing patterns.
Recognizing patterns.
Be able to hypothesize, use analogies, and internalize it.
Do you all agree with that?
Yes.
Try not to compare it to English.
Right.
Because you have because we'll learn gerunds and I'm like, oh, gerunds in English, and it's not the same thing. So
It's not the same
don't
thing.
wanna try to-
Even the notion of what is a subject is not the same thing in English and Arabic.
To be, where's to be?
Yes.
To be is
So it's really, it's in some ways, it's good to compare. Comparing sometimes can actually help you learn something. But it's it's more useful because the comparison leads you to understand that it's different. And knowing it's different helps you to remember the way Arabic works. So in that sense, it's good. But certainly, it isn't useful to resist something because it's not working the way, right? You need to open yourself up to that. So what kind of learning is this called? It's active learning, but what kind of learning is it when you, so you get examples of something, right? You get examples of a particular structure, but you don't get the actual rule for it right away.
Deductive?
Is it deductive?
Didactic.
Is it didactic? Or is it inductive? It's inductive. Inductive, right? Going from many examples to figuring out what the rule is. And that is a really, really, really important goal in this class, is to teach you how to do that. Because when you go out of this class, you're not going to be handed rules, right? What you're going to get is a lot of input. And we want to teach you to be able to get that input and put it together with what you already know about the language to go that next step and learn more about how the language works, right? So challenge yourself. Do you think you're going to be comfortable with this way? Is this similar to how you have been learning languages? No. No, more like, here's the rule, give it, you just follow it now and do it, okay? Which way do you think is more fun?
This way.
Yes! It's more engaging, right? You get to figure it out.
It's be more frustrating.
Huh?
It's also bound to be more frustrating.
Okay, if you're what kind of a learner?
Wants to know now.
Somebody that wants to know now, somebody that doesn't tolerate ambiguity well, right? Somebody that just wants to know that right answer. So if you have those things in yourself as a learner, you will be challenged a little bit by this, but just know that this is a safe environment for you to push yourself beyond your own comfort zone in terms of being willing to that, developing confidence in your ability to get it right, Lydia. Lydia's guessing things right all the time, and before she gets halfway through it, she says, oh, no, never mind, that's got to be wrong. No, that was right. That was perfectly right, right? So it's really important that you, be comfortable with that and be willing to be wrong. That's something that you have to also, and be willing to learn from it if you find out afterwards. Learning to read in Arabic. Did any of you discuss anything about that in your?
We'll have authentic text.
You definitely have authentic text.
And they'll try to use the words as much as possible. Like once you know it, they won't, like in the Alif Baa, they won't write it out for you anymore. Like it'll be just something that you should already know how to use, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Okay, in terms of the vocabulary, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Well, I remember, like I was saying earlier, like I remember actually for certain reading texts, when they ask you questions now, they're actually going to write them in English, so then you have to think about how to say that, how to respond to it in Arabic without any kind of helping clues from the question being in Arabic. So it's like testing you even more.
Mm-hmm.
You can't use the question as a crutch to find out what needs to be done. So you have to not only know what the sentence or paragraph is saying, but you have to know how to respond to it without any kind of help from the question.
What about number 5? Thank you, Lydia. Number 5 and 6. Do your homework. Be prepared. Be prepared. Be prepared. Be prepared. Be prepared. And?
Come to class having read the preface. And
for instance.
Or Ustad Beck will take a note and say, read last night.
But she won't put it up on the doc cam. You caught that, huh? Okay. But seriously, you were talking about reprimanding you for not being prepared? Boy, could I do some reprimanding today if I were in the mood. But I'm going to let it go. I know we've been going really fast and you've just had a test and everything. But really, 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 really recommit, right? This is the time to recommit. And I have to honestly say, I'm going to give you back your test tomorrow. The amount of time, and let's talk about number 6 finally before we finish up. The amount of time I think that you all are putting into especially learning your spelling of vocabulary words, not enough.
Yeah.
Not enough. Not enough. I heard something over here about 6 hours a week. You should be spending a minimum of 12 hours a week. on your Arabic. Minimum. Minimum. Absolutely. 2 hours for every class time. Absolutely. Yes. And if you're not, you need to. Because that's what it takes, even if you're a brilliant language learner. Some of you may have been able to get away with less if you came in with some background, but you will very quickly lose that advantage, right? So watch it too and monitor. And what else? What else? We're going to start learning language and talking. No more dictation and just sounds and stuff. It's going to get really real now. Huh? Oh, no, but you still would be doing dictations. You'll be doing all the sentences at the beginning of every chapter. So you will get to continue to shine in that. It's just that in addition to that, we're going to start learning lots of things so we can actually start communicating and using a lot more language. Mishi? Huh?
I feel like they're gonna be. I'm scared.
They weren't really bad. They weren't really bad, but it made me realize that I hadn't really. We spend a lot of time talking and using the vocabulary, and not a lot of time requiring you to produce it in writing. And I think that was probably what maybe gave you the impression that it wasn't that important to be learning how to write it. So go back, make sure that you do, because all that vocabulary you are going to continue to need.